Her own father rushed into the hospital room and beat her fiercely with a cane. He angrily accused her of planning a car crash to hurt her younger sister. He didn't know that the real victim was his own biological daughter, and the sneaky sister was just adopted. Her husband showed up right then with the so-called victim. The sister cried and said that her older sister was just jealous for not being their parents' real child. Her parents immediately ran to comfort the liar, leaving their real daughter bleeding on the floor. In her despair, she turned to her husband and asked who he believed. He coldly took her sister's side. He told his own wife that he couldn't help her lie and demanded she apologize. Only then did she finally understand the whole truth. That very night, her sister had insisted on going for a drive. Her sister had admitted that she wanted everything her sister had, before grabbing the steering wheel and crashing the car on purpose. At the crash site, her husband had run right past her bleeding body, ignoring her completely, just to comfort her sister, who only had a small scratch. He had held the liar in his arms while his real wife lay dying on the ground. This was the same man who, 10 years ago, had promised to protect her forever. He was the same man who had secretly married her 3 years ago, promising to care for her. Her family had never approved, and her husband's love had slowly turned cold. After being beaten by her father and betrayed by her husband, she finally made a decision. Walking out of the hospital into the heavy rain, she saw a huge billboard her husband had bought for her sister's birthday. It was the final insult. She called him, reminding him of his old promise that if he ever hurt her, she should leave and never look back. She told him she would give him what he wanted. She declared that 1 week from that day, she would be back to marry him and she would make them all pay. At a charity auction, he openly bid $20 million for a necklace, not for his wife, but for her sneaky sister. His wife could only watch as he embarrassed her in front of everyone, proving their whole marriage was a lie. It all started when she came home from the hospital. The maid told her that her husband wasn't coming home. In a moment of hopelessness, she decided to throw away their wedding photos. As she opened the frame, she found another picture hidden inside, a photo of her husband with her sister. Only then did she realize how deeply he had betrayed her. Her worried maid called her husband, but he coldly brushed her off, saying he had to stay with the sister. He didn't mention that he was already at the hospital, fussing over the sister who was pretending to have a small injury. He even had his assistant deliver a huge pink diamond ring to the sister as a gift. It was a harsh contrast to the promises he had once made. He was the same man who had vowed to always protect her after she was picked on. He was the same man who had promised to buy her the most beautiful necklace in the world. But that was all a dream. 5 days later, she decided to end it. She packed her things and prepared the divorce papers, ready to leave him for good. Her best friend called, begging her to come to a charity auction. At the event, she saw her sister pretending to be weak and hurt, holding onto her husband's arm. Then the final blow came. A stunning sapphire necklace, one she had dreamed of for years, came up for auction. She bid $12 million, hoping for one last memory. But her husband immediately outbid her, offering $20 million just to give it to her sister. She had nothing left to say. Back home, surrounded by the broken pieces of their marriage, she got a call from his assistant. The assistant offered her the pink diamond ring as a weak consolation prize. She told him to keep it because a reward for helping her should be much bigger. She hung up the phone, looked at their wedding photo one last time, and with a final, sure step, crushed his face under her heel. Just after winning the sapphire necklace for his mistress, the man got a shocking call that his wife had vanished. He rushed into her empty hospital room, angry that she had left against the doctor's orders. The truth was much worse. His mistress, the younger sister, had planned the whole disappearance to make his wife suffer. He came home to find her packing her bags and confronted her. He accused her of giving away the expensive pink diamond he had given her. He grabbed her, but she pushed him away, telling him to go to his precious sister. He stormed out, and she sat alone with the divorce papers, finally realizing he had already made the choice for her. Later, he returned to the hospital with his mistress, only to find his wife gone. He angrily called his assistant to find her, but it was all a trap. The mistress had arranged for the wife to be taken, enjoying the final twist of the knife. He called the maid, who told him everything was gone. He asked if everything was gone, as a cold fear finally sank in. He could only scream in horror as they pushed her off the cliff. He lunged forward, desperate and broken, but his men held him back. His entire world fell apart in an instant. Overcome with grief, he threw them off and crawled to the edge of the cliff. He screamed her name into the empty air, but there was no answer. That night, he searched nonstop, his cries echoing in the dark. The woman he sent her death was not at the bottom of the cliff. She opened her eyes in a strange place, her face completely covered in bandages. A man she didn't recognize was by her bed. She asked where she was and who she was, but she couldn't remember anything, not even her own face. He gently took her hand and told her that her name was Zhaozhao, and that she was his fiancée. He explained that she had fallen from a cliff during their honeymoon, hitting her head, which caused amnesia and messed up her face. As she looked at her bandaged reflection, she asked if he would still marry her, now that her face was ruined. The man vowed that she would always be the most beautiful bride in his eyes. He remembered a time back in high school when she had told him her name was Zhaozhao, meaning she was the brightest little sun. Back at the cliff, her husband's desperate search went on. His assistant reported that after 48 hours, they had found her phone, but there was no sign of her body. Full of guilt and anger, the man collapsed. He was sedated by his own men on his father's orders. Meanwhile, the woman who survived the fall took off her bandages. The scars on her face were a faint reminder of a past she couldn't remember. She looked in the mirror and accepted her new life. Her name was Zhaozhao. A woman screamed his name, Linyuan, and smashed a bottle over his head. Bleeding and broken, he insisted he never meant to kill her. He claimed he loved her and thought her kidnapping was just a cruel test. But his words were empty. He hadn't even known her real name. It wasn't Zhao Yuji, a name she hated. It was Zhaozhao. At that moment, his world fell apart as he remembered making fun of her for insisting on her name during a business deal. He had treated her identity as a bother. While he drowned in guilt, the real killer celebrated. His wife's sister laughed with friends and admitted to setting up the whole kidnapping just to get rid of the sister she always hated. To cover her tracks, she had the kidnappers killed for good. As proof of her win, she showed off the sapphire necklace her sister loved. Even her own parents had been heartless. At her memorial, her father called her useless, saying her sister was far more important to the family. He had never seen her as a daughter, only a tool. The husband overheard his sister-in-law's confession, and his grief instantly turned to pure rage. He realized she hadn't been testing him. She had been murdered by her own family. He had betrayed her, choosing her sister and letting her fall to her death. He remembered her friend telling him she was already planning to leave, to give him and her sister everything they wanted. Now his mind focused on one thing, the necklace. In his madness, he believed that if he could just get it back, he could bring her back from the dead. He violently choked his dead wife's sister at her own funeral. With an angry roar, he called her a fake and demanded to know if she was good enough to replace his wife. This happened right after he crashed the funeral, ordering his men to smash everything in sight. He screamed that his wife was still alive, and that holding a funeral was a curse to kill her. The guests were shocked, gossiping that he was supposed to be with the sister, Huan, now that the true wife, Zhaozhao, was dead. They whispered about how the sneaky sister had stolen her parents, and now her husband. As Huan tried to comfort him, he grabbed her throat, his rage exploding. He ripped a necklace from her neck, something inside him breaking. In a broken memory, he saw himself on a cliff, screaming at Huan for stealing everything from Zhaozhao. He accused her of stealing her parents, her friends, and even him. He accused her of pushing Zhaozhao off that very cliff. But Huan only laughed in his face, telling him it was his own pride and choices that killed his wife. She revealed he was the one who had personally chosen her over Zhaozhao. It was at that moment he truly understood. He remembered giving his real wife, Zhaozhao, a simple, delicate wedding necklace, a promise of their life together. Then he remembered buying a fancy, expensive one for her sister, Huan. He was the one who had betrayed her. As the police arrived to arrest Huan for murder and kidnapping, Zhaozhao's best friend appeared. The friend told him that he was just as much a murderer. Full of the horrifying truth, he got ready to jump from the cliff to be with his wife. But his assistant stopped him, screaming that Zhaozhao wasn't gone. The assistant claimed she was just angry because he had lost their wedding photos. A small hope lit up in his despair. He believed all he had to do was find the photos, and she would come back. He frantically tore through trash cans, his hands hurting, searching for their lost memory, and then he found it. He found their wedding photo, smiling with a desperate joy. He believed he had found her and could bring her home. As he ran into the street, holding the photo, a car hit him without warning. With a desperate roar, the man burst into a fancy wedding. Stopping the ceremony, he shouted that Zhaozhao couldn't marry him. The bride, her face hidden behind a veil, turned in shock. Just before, he had been harshly scolded by his grandfather for ignoring the family business. His grandfather called him a disgrace for being obsessed with a dead woman. The old man insisted he go to the powerful Chen family's wedding to fix their reputation, throwing the invitation at his feet. But when he picked it up, he saw the name that broke his reality. The bride was Zhaozhao. He couldn't believe it, because his Zhaozhao was right there with him. It turned out that after being hit by a car, he had woken up to find his wife alive. She had light scars on her face and no memory of their past, but he was sure it was a miracle. He had even given her a custom-made wedding dress, promising to give her the ceremony they never had. As she cried tears of joy, he hugged her, believing he could finally rebuild his life. But the invitation showed the horrible truth. The groom was Chen Xiandu, the head of the Chen family, and the bride of the Chen family, and the bride was Zhaozhao. Right away, he knew he had to go. As he rushed to the wedding, the real Zhaozhao was walking down the aisle towards her new husband. She had no idea that the man who thought she was dead was about to crash her wedding and reveal a devastating secret.